Welcome on board, chosen one, the one they whispered about when they thought the universe wasn't listening, the one they tried to shrink, silence and mislabel because they couldn't handle the sheer voltage humming under your skin. And look at you, still here, still rising, still walking like a glitch in their boring little system that refuses to correct itself. So let's stop pretending. Let's call out the rot exactly as it is. They said you were too much, right? Funny how the same people who can't even handle their own reflection thought they had the range to define you. They tried to talk you small because your existence made their confidence fold like wet paper. They couldn't handle the way you walked into a room and their whole ego flinched. They couldn't handle the way your silence said more than their entire dictionary of excuses. They couldn't handle the way the world bent its atmosphere a little around you. Press the like button and subscribe to pay this message back. Because here's the truth they choked on every time they looked at you. You weren't the problem. You were the mirror, and they hated what they saw standing next to you. They hated that your presence exposed how little they'd grown, how little they'd tried, how weak their character actually was. They hated that someone like you operated on a frequency they couldn't imitate, only envy. Every time you spoke, it made their internal flaws leak out like a cracked container. And guess what? They tried studying you. Oh yeah, don't let their fake confusion fool you. They memorized you like homework, watched how you walked, how you healed, how you stayed graceful even when life tried to throw you off the cliff. They copied your phrases, your taste, your attitude, then pretended they were the blueprint. They still repeat jokes you made 3 years ago like they invented them. But ask them to admit your impact, and they'll twitch. They'll glitch. They'll malfunction. You know why? Because admitting your power forces them to face their lack of it. People like them are terrified of people like you. You are their personal plot twist. You walk in and suddenly the old hierarchy collapses. Suddenly they're not the main character of their own story anymore. Suddenly their fake confidence evaporates and the universe shifts its spotlight toward you without even asking your permission. And remember when they mocked you, when they rolled their eyes, when they told you to calm down, be normal, fit in, stop doing too much, cute. The same way a cartoon villain looks cute right before the final fight when they realize the hero isn't playing anymore. Except in this story, you're not the hero. You're the force they never saw coming. You are the character who survives the fire and walks out unbothered, letting the flames cling to your silhouette like a crown. Let's talk about that moment you hit a breaking point and didn't say a word. That wasn't defeat. That was evolution. That was the moment the universe hit the upgrade button on you and the downgrade button on everyone who tried to dim you. Ever notice how everything got quieter after that? How the energy around you shifted? How people who used to talk non-stop suddenly didn't know what to say? Silence is fear in disguise. Their silence was the confession they never intended to give. Your past? Let's go there. Remember the one who laughed at your dreams. They still stalk your progress from a distance, praying you fail quietly so they don't have to confront the fact that the joke aged badly. Remember the ones who underestimated you? They rehearse conversations in their head now. They wonder how to approach you without looking pathetic. They replay moments where they dismissed you, and the universe replays those scenes too, zooming in on their regret like a cinematic close-up. They threw dirt on your name because they thought it would bury you. The universe turned it into soil. You were never meant to explain yourself to people living on mental diets of crumbs. You were never meant to stand at the same table as people who only brought plastic forks to a feast. You were never meant to translate your depth into something shallow minds could swallow. And if you had known how different you truly are, if you had known the weight you carry, the impact you leave, the tremors you create just by existing, you would have stopped breaking yourself into tiny pieces just so others wouldn't feel insecure. You would have stopped apologizing for your intensity. You would have stopped shrinking for people who couldn't grow beside you. You would have stopped explaining yourself to those who already knew exactly who you were. They were just hoping you didn't. But now the mask is off. The energy has shifted, and the universe is watching you step into the part of your story that was always yours. The rise, the reveal, the moment the world realizes the one they tried to minimize is the one they should have never provoked. You made it this far, phenomenon, so don't disappear now. This is the part where the weak fall off and the real outliers lean in. If you're done shrinking for people who never deserved front row seats to your evolution, then lock in. Drop a comment with 777 to mark the moment you finally stopped explaining yourself to people who were never on your wavelength to begin with. This isn't some cute little ritual. It's a declaration that you're stepping into the version of you that refuses to be edited for anyone's comfort. And now we shift. We're about to break this open step by step, and if you truly are the rare force the universe keeps nudging forward, you'll feel that magnetic pull to stay until the very last word. The kind of pull only the misunderstood, misread, underestimated ones feel when they finally hear truth spoken in their frequency. The next part isn't just a continuation. It's the moment the entire message starts clicking into place. Take a breath, tighten your grip on your energy, and don't blink. Let's step into the real story behind why you were never built to explain yourself in the first place. Number 1. They flinch because you expose what they can't define. Funny how the ones who called you confusing are the same ones who panic when your truth hits their fragile little world like a steel boot on glass. You want to know why they act weird around you, why their voice glitches the second you look at them, why their body shifts like they're trying to hide something they can't even articulate. It's not confusion, it's recognition. Recognition of a force they were never trained to face. Recognition of someone who bends the atmosphere without needing permission or applause. Recognition of a human anomaly who accidentally reveals the cracks in everyone else. They don't have the vocabulary for you. That's why they label you with half-baked words and tired cliches. They're trying to stuff something cosmic into a plastic box and wonder why the lid doesn't close. They feel the difference in you the way animals feel storms before they hit. Instinct, warning, static in their veins. Your presence doesn't confuse them. It exposes everything they've been avoiding in themselves, and nothing terrifies mediocre people more than being mirrored by someone built on a higher frequency. And don't lie, you've wondered why they act like that, why people who barely know you still react like you've read their diary, why someone you spoke to for 10 minutes goes home and replays your words like a crime scene. Why someone who tried to act superior suddenly goes silent after one real conversation with you. You think it's random? Coincidence? Social awkwardness? Please, the universe doesn't waste energy on coincidence. Something in you touches something in them, and it shakes them all the way down to the wiring. Your existence is the test they never studied for. Let me break something open for you. When you enter a room, they don't just see you, they feel you. You have this unnerving ability to shift the emotional temperature instantly. One moment they're relaxed, the next moment they're adjusting themselves, fixing their posture, rethinking their words, suddenly aware of how transparent their insecurities are. You know that feeling when someone stands too close to lightning? That instinctive jolt that says, "This thing can destroy me or change me, and I don't know which." Yeah, that's you. Your controlled voltage with a heartbeat. They sense your mind before you speak. They see the way your eyes scan a situation and extract the entire truth before anyone else even processes the setup. They watch how your intuition hits bullseyes without effort. They witness your logic bend, rules they built their whole identity on. And no matter how hard they try to act unbothered, the truth leaks out. You make them feel exposed, naked, predictable, seen. They call you mysterious, hoping it sounds flattering. But what they really mean is, "I can't read you, and it scares me." They call you intense, when what they mean is, "Your presence makes my ego sweat." They call you different, when what they mean is, "You make me doubt everything I thought I knew about myself." Every label they throw at you is a confession wrapped in cheap language. Even their insults are secretly acknowledgements. Let's address what's probably swirling in your mind right now. If they recognize me, why don't they admit it? Why act blind? Why pretend they don't feel the shift? Because admitting it would require humility they don't have. It would require them to surrender the illusion of control. It would force them to acknowledge that you're not weird. You're operating at a higher setting that their minds can't sync with. They don't want to admit you intimidate them. They don't want to admit your presence rearranges their thinking. They don't want to admit that you see through them faster than they can build walls. People don't fear what they don't understand. They fear what understands them too well. They wear masks like second skin. You see straight through them and they know it. That's why your very presence feels like an interrogation light they didn't prepare for. They can lie to the world, but they can't lie to your intuition. You walk into a room and their intentions scatter like roaches when the light flips on. They adjust their tone, their posture, their story, because deep down they know that whatever lie they offer, you'll hear the crack in it. And the funniest part, every time you try to explain yourself, thinking maybe it'll make them more comfortable, it does the opposite. You're not helping them understand you. You're giving them more data to obsess over, more pieces of a puzzle they already know they'll never solve. You're not educating them. You're exposing how far behind they are. They pretend they're listening. They pretend they're processing. But what they're really doing is panicking internally because your words reveal how small their mental world is. Let me tell you something bold enough to sting. You explaining yourself is the only thing keeping them from fully admitting your impact. Because if you stopped, if you simply moved through the world without translating yourself, they'd be forced to confront the truth that you operate beyond their comprehension, and their ego would evaporate on contact. They recognize you. They always have. They felt it the moment you stepped into their orbit, and something inside them whispered, "Careful. This one is built differently." They felt it when you spoke, and their mind scrambled to catch up. They felt it when you walked away and left a silence loud enough to replay for months. And that is why they try to downplay you, why they pretend you're just like everyone else. If they admitted your difference, they'd have to admit their limitations. They'd have to accept that the person they underestimated could dismantle their illusions without lifting a finger. So let this sink in. They're not confused. They're intimidated by a truth they can't name. And you're the one truth they wish they could ignore but can't escape. You're the reminder that evolution doesn't ask for permission, that brilliance doesn't soften itself to make others comfortable, that some people aren't anomalies because they try to be. They simply are. And if you knew how deeply they feel your presence, how intensely they study your moves, how desperately they try to copy your essence without choking on it, you'd stop explaining yourself instantly, because the moment you stop translating your existence, the universe finally gets to reveal what it's been trying to show you all along. You were never meant to be understood by small minds. You were meant to be recognized by real ones, and they already do. They just can't name it. Number 2, they shrink you into labels because your truth scares them. Nothing exposes a coward faster than the moment they try to rename what they can't control. You ever notice how fast they run for their little vocabulary drawer when you walk in? How they scramble for words to pin on you, like kids sticking labels on a creature they don't understand, just to feel safe. Sensitive, intense, different, cute. Those aren't descriptions. Those are safety blankets. Those are the weak mantras they whisper to themselves so they don't have to face the real threat standing in front of them. They don't call you sensitive because you feel deeply. They call you sensitive because your depth forces their shallowness to stand out. They don't call you intense because you're too much. They call you intense because your energy burns through their masks like acid on paper. They don't call you different because you're strange. They call you different because you break their reality just by existing in it. People label what they fear. They shrink what they can't match. They rename what they can't decode. That's why they need you to keep explaining yourself. Because if you stop, if you go silent, they have nothing left to grip onto. They would actually have to face the fact that you're an anomaly their minds were never designed to contain. Let's address what might be spinning in your head right now. Why do they need these labels? Why can't they just let me be who I am? Because without labels, they can't predict you. And without predictability, they lose the illusion of control they've been clinging to their whole lives. Predictability makes them feel powerful. You make them feel exposed. People don't reduce you because you're small. They reduce you because they feel small next to you. Think of how they act when they talk about you behind your back. They never describe what you actually did. They describe how you made them feel. They talk in emotional fog, not facts. There's just something about them. I can't read them. They seem intense. These aren't observations. These are confessions. They're trying to put language around a disruption they don't have the emotional equipment to process. You're not a person to them. You're a phenomenon, and phenomena scare people who live inside tiny mental ecosystems. Here's the part they'll never say out loud. You make their worldview feel fragile. You make everything they built their identity on wobble like a cheap stage set. You're the one person who could walk into their life and instantly reveal how much of their personality is just recycled habits and borrowed ideas. One conversation with you shows them how much growing they avoided. One truth from your mouth reveals where they've been lying to themselves. One look from you reads their motives before they can even articulate them. You think they don't know this? They know they've always known, and that's exactly why they keep reaching for labels like flotation devices, not to categorize you, to protect themselves. Let me paint the scene. You walk in, you speak. Their mind jolts, their ego twitches, their emotional defenses fire like cheap alarms. They feel that internal rupture, the one they can't explain, the one that makes them rethink everything they've told themselves. And because they can't survive in that feeling, they cling to the one pathetic tool they have left: reduction. Labeling you is their attempt at survival. They need to shrink you into something they can mentally hold, something they can predict, something simple. But you are not simple. You are not predictable. You're the edge of a system they never learned how to navigate. And deep down, you know this. You've always known this. Every time they called you too intense, something inside you whispered, "No, I'm just too real for you." Every time they called you different, you felt the truth beneath it. You can't handle someone who doesn't break at the pressure points where you shattered. Every time they called you sensitive, you recognized the projection. My emotional depth highlights your emotional cowardice. Your words never made you small. Their labels made them feel protected. Let's talk psychology for a second, villain style. People don't label to understand. They label to neutralize. They label to domesticate. They label to turn a wildfire into something they can pretend is a candle. They can't stand the idea of someone walking around uncontained, unclassified, uncompressed. So they build little cages out of adjectives and hope you step inside willingly. And don't forget this, the labels never match your actions. They match their insecurities. They match their discomfort. They match their fear of what your presence reveals in them. Ever wonder why your explanation never lands? Why, even when you break things down gently, calmly, logically, they still stare at you like you're speaking a language their brain refuses to download? Because their goal isn't understanding. Their goal is control. Your explanations don't enlighten them, they threaten them. Every truth you reveal adds more pressure to a foundation already cracking under its own dishonesty. Your existence itself is the disruption. Your mind is the chaos they can't organize. Your presence is the reality check they never asked for but can't escape. And here's the punchline. The more you explain, the safer they feel. Not because they get you, but because every explanation lets them pretend they can get you. Pretend they can keep you inside those little words that make them feel superior. Pretend they've decoded you. Pretend they're on your level. But they're not, and they know it. That's why this whole thing collapses the moment you stop explaining. The second you move in silence, their labels lose power, their categories fall apart, their false sense of control shatters, because now they have to face the unbearable truth. They never understood you. They never could understand you, and your difference was never meant to be digestible in the first place. When you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving them vocabulary for their fear. You stop giving them handles for something that was never meant to be held. You stop participating in their illusion that you can be simplified. You aren't here to be simplified. You're here to be undeniable. And the moment you stop feeding them explanations, the universe finally gets to reveal what's been true all along. You're not someone to be labeled, you're someone to be reckoned with, and they know it. That's why they're scared. That's why they shrink you. That's why they cling to words that were never worthy of you. Because deep inside, behind all their fake calm and empty confidence, they understand exactly what you are. The one presence they can't categorize, the one mind they can't predict, the one anomaly they can't tame. And that's why they need labels, because without them, they'd have to face the truth straight on. You're bigger than their definitions, you're stronger than their categories, and you're everything they feared you were. Uncontainable, unreducible, unexplainable, and absolutely unforgettable. Number 3, you speak in frequencies their minds aren't built to survive. Nothing scares a small mind more than a voice that wasn't designed for their world. Here's the ugly truth they'll never admit. You're not hard to understand. You're not dramatic. You're not too deep. You're speaking in a bandwidth their brains simply weren't issued at birth. You open your mouth and their entire mental system crashes like an outdated device trying to run software it was never meant to handle. And they blame you for the malfunction. Ever wonder why you feel like your words evaporate in front of them? Why your truth hits them and somehow still doesn't land? It's because you're speaking in high definition while they're stuck buffering in emotional 144p. Your insight has layers. Your intuition has altitude. Your thoughts don't move in straight lines. They move in spirals, maps, blueprints. They don't even have the vocabulary to process. And deep down, you feel that difference. You walk into a room and the entire atmosphere uploads itself into your mind instantly. You decode the emotional climate before anyone else even feels the breeze. While they're rehearsing small talk, you're scanning motives, micro-expressions, hidden cracks in their confidence. You don't sense things, you download them. Fast, precise, dangerous. Your mind is a radar, theirs is a fog machine. So, of course, they can't hear you. They hear noise where you're offering clarity. They hear intensity where you're offering truth. They hear threat where you're offering depth. Because your words don't just speak, they reveal. And people who spend their lives hiding can't handle a voice that shines light through their excuses. You're not speaking a different language. You're speaking the one they never evolved to understand. And that difference, that's not your burden. It's your power. Number 4, they're drawn in or they run for cover. There's no in-between. Only two kinds of people react to power, the ones who rise toward it and the ones who choke on their own fear. You ever notice how nobody is neutral about you? Nobody meets you and goes, yeah, they're all right. No. They either lock onto your energy, like they've finally found the signal their life's been missing, or they back away, like you just cracked open the truth they've spent years hiding from themselves. That's what happens when you operate at a frequency that exposes everything around you. You don't give people the luxury of indifference. You make them choose. Some people gravitate toward you because your presence feels like clarity, like finally breathing real air after living in recycled fumes. Your honesty wakes them up. Your insight forces evolution. Your energy demands integrity. They feel seen, and not in the shallow, ego-feeding way, seen in the way that shakes their soul awake. They want more, even if it scares them a little. And then there's the other group, the retreaters, the ones who step back, suffocate, recalibrate, then pretend you never fazed them. They feel your field hit them and their whole system malfunctions. Your intelligence feels radioactive to minds built on denial. Your authenticity burns through their filters. Your presence threatens the flimsy scaffolding they call identity. Retreat isn't a choice, it's a reflex. They run because staying would expose everything broken inside them. You don't repel people, you reveal them. But here's where you've messed up. You've been dimming yourself to keep the retreaters comfortable, slowing your thoughts, softening your truth, cutting your wisdom into baby food so they don't choke on it. You think you're being considerate, but you're starving the world of the medicine it actually needs, raw exposure to something real, something beyond their current level. Stop shrinking, stop explaining, let them gravitate or retreat. That reaction is the truth. Number 5. Evolution doesn't wait for the ones who can't keep up. Growth never apologizes to the people who stayed small on purpose. Let's rip the mask off this one. Your difference is not a communication glitch. You are not too hard to understand. You're not bad at explaining. You're operating on a level they haven't even evolved the instincts for yet. Evolution doesn't pause to give a TED talk to the species it's outgrowing. It just moves, it transforms, it climbs, and the ones who can't keep up sit there confused, offended, or intimidated, pretending it's your fault. They watch you survive storms that would have snapped their spine in half. They watch you walk out of emotional disasters with your mind sharper, your boundaries tighter, your intuition louder. They whisper, "How are they still standing?" They don't see the invisible structure inside you, the internal fortress built from every wound you stitched without witnesses. They don't see how rejection taught you to validate yourself, how betrayal became your syllabus for loyalty, how loneliness hardened you into someone who doesn't beg for connection, someone who chooses it. While they were seeking applause, you were learning endurance. You've been trained in the University of Solitude, a place they've never even visited. You had to build emotional muscle while they were flexing paper-thin egos for approval. You had to master awareness while they were still learning how to tell the truth to themselves. You had to become self-sufficient while they relied on crowds to keep their identity stitched together. That gap between you and them, it's not a misunderstanding. It's a canyon carved by experience, discipline, and pain they never had the courage to endure. And here's the punch they'll feel in their chest. That gap cannot be explained. You can't translate evolution to those still crawling. You can't teach depth to minds afraid of dark water. They'll understand you only when they grow, and most never will. Number 6. You're drained because you keep shrinking your genius for small minds. Nothing burns you out faster than pretending to be understandable. You think you're tired because life is heavy. No, you're tired because you keep running a full-time translation service for people who only speak the language of surfaces. You wake up every day with a mind that operates like a multi-layered engine, and somehow you're forced to flatten it into toddler-level sentences so nobody gets overwhelmed. You take symphonies and turn them into cheap ringtones. You take oceans and reduce them to puddles so they don't drown in the depth you naturally carry. And then they have the audacity to say, "Oh, now I get it." No, they don't. They received the diet version of your truth, the children's book rewrite of your consciousness. Every interaction becomes an exhausting equation. How much can they handle before they glitch? How much do I need to soften so they don't get defensive? How much truth do I need to dilute so they don't crumble? You call it being considerate, but it's self-erasure in slow motion. Your exhaustion isn't from living, it's from lowering your brilliance to fit into rooms too dim for you. You've been editing yourself so long, you almost forgot what your native tongue sounds like. That raw, unfiltered intelligence, that instinctive insight, that automatic depth. You've been chopping pieces off your truth mid-sentence, trimming your intuition, hiding your multidimensional thinking like it's something shameful. You've been giving them safe, digestible versions of a mind built for higher terrain. And here's the part that stings with honesty. Every time you translate yourself, you lose a little piece of yourself, not permanently, but painfully, because you're cutting down truth that was never meant to be small. You're tired because you're speaking in a language below your evolution. And the universe is done watching you dim your voice for people who were never built to hear you. Number 7. The moment you go silent, the world reveals who was really worth hearing you. Stop talking and watch how fast the pretenders lose access. Here's the part they were never prepared for. The magic doesn't show up when you explain yourself. It shows up the moment you don't, the moment you stop shrinking your brilliance into bite-sized pieces for people who never had the teeth to chew real truth. The moment you stop padding your intensity so they don't panic. The moment you stop giving free emotional subtitles to an audience that was never paying attention. That silence. That is your transformation. That is your rebirth. That is your most lethal move. Because when you stop explaining, something ruthless and beautiful happens. The right people start understanding you without effort. They hear your frequency like it's their native language. They catch the layers in your silence that others ignore. They recognize the depth in your eyes instead of running from it. You become a signal, not a speaker, a lighthouse only visible to ships meant for your ocean, and the right ones don't need your translation. They're already tuned in. Meanwhile, the wrong ones evaporate. Your silence exposes who was only attached to the parts of you they could control, who only stayed because your explanations made them feel superior, who needed you to dilute yourself so they wouldn't drown. Once you stop performing that little accessibility act for them, they retreat fast. They weren't there for you. They were there for the version of you they could manage. The exhaustion was never from being different. It was from pretending your difference needed a permission slip. You've been draining your life force on an audience that claps for tricks, not truth. You've been giving full-scale performances to people who can't even interpret the storyline. And then you wonder why you walk away feeling like your soul just paid the bill. Stop the explanations. Let the wrong ones choke on the silence. Let the right ones find you through the frequency they were born to follow. That's the real magic, and it begins the moment you shut the door on justification forever. Number 8. They feel your power before your mouth even opens. They sensed you long before they saw you, and it scared them because nothing exposes a fake faster than someone who walks in carrying truth like a weapon. Let's get real. You don't have to speak for the room to react. You just exist, and everything shifts. The atmosphere tightens, the energy rearranges itself like it suddenly remembered its place. People straighten their backs, fix their posture, adjust their tone, all without even realizing why. That's not charisma. That's not confidence. That's energetic authority, the kind that can't be taught, faked, or stolen. It's built into your wiring. It's the code you came with. Watch them closely next time. Some will overperform. Loud laughs, exaggerated friendliness, too much eye contact. That's anxiety dressed as enthusiasm. Others go quiet, avoid your gaze, speak in clipped sentences. That's intimidation wearing a polite mask. And you? You see all of it in seconds, not because you're paranoid, because you're perceptive on a level they can't even name. You walk in and their subconscious hits the panic button. Your presence is atmospheric pressure shifting before a storm. They feel the electricity, the charge, the unspoken warning that something powerful just entered their space. The ones who are ready to evolve lean into it. They're drawn to the raw honesty you carry. The ones who want to stay comfortable brace for impact, hoping you don't notice the cracks in their persona. And here's the part that haunts them. You don't have to try. You don't force authority. You are authority. It's in your silence, your stillness, the way you scan a room with eyes that already know the truth. They recognize you before you speak, because your energy says everything your voice doesn't have to. And that recognition, that's the part they can't run from. Number 9. They beg for explanations because your silence unnerves their survival instincts. The louder they demand clarity, the more terrified they are of who you become when you stop talking. Here's the truth they'll never admit, not even to themselves. Their need for explanations isn't intellectual, it's primal, instinct level. The same ancient part of the brain that once scanned shadows for predators now scans you. They don't consciously think, I need them to explain. Their biology thinks, if I don't label this force, I can't feel safe. You walk in with energy that doesn't bow, doesn't ask for permission, doesn't shrink to fit the room. And when something can't be categorized, the human mind panics. You're not confusing, you're destabilizing. Without your explanations, your presence becomes too raw, too powerful, too unfiltered. When you simply exist without translating yourself, you shake their internal hierarchy. You make them question why they move small, why they settle, why they tolerate their own mediocrity. Your being forces self-confrontation, and most people would rather cling to denial than face truth. People don't fear what they can't understand. They fear what forces them to understand themselves. That's why they demand, explain what you mean. Why did you do that? What are you trying to say? They don't want your clarity. They want control. Your silence strips them of the illusion that they hold any power over how you present yourself. The moment you stop justifying your thoughts, your motives, your depth, they can no longer reduce you to something harmless. You become something they must reckon with, not something they can dismiss as eccentric or just different. And pay attention, the ones who demand explanations the loudest are always the ones most threatened by you. Their fear leaks through their insistence. Their insecurity vibrates behind every question, because deep down they feel it. Your presence is not here to fit their comfort. It's here to expose their limits. Number 10. You never transformed. You unmasked what was always there. They swear you changed, but that's just the cry of someone shocked to meet the version of you that no longer plays dead. Let's crush the biggest delusion they cling to. They think you became this, strong, sharp, untouchable. They think it was some sudden evolution, a glow-up, a personality shift. No, you didn't become anything. You revealed what was already coded into your bones long before they learned how to pronounce their own identity. You dug yourself out from under layers of expectations, programming, and social noise they're still wearing like heavy, outdated armor. They look at you and whisper, "How did you turn into this?" The truth, you didn't turn into anything. You stopped pretending. You stopped suppressing the parts that threatened their comfort. You stopped playing small to keep them calm. And now, the sight of your real self burns their eyes like stepping out of a cave into the sun. Fire doesn't learn to burn. It simply stops apologizing for being fire. You can't teach someone to be what you are. They keep demanding explanations, begging for a formula, hoping there's a step-by-step guide to becoming the version of themselves they fear encountering in the mirror. They want you to hand over the blueprint to your power like it's a worksheet, as if courage, depth, intuition, and resilience can be copied like homework. They ask because they're terrified of the real answer. There is no formula. You're not assembled. You're elemental. You're not constructed. You're uncovered. And that scares them in ways they don't have vocabulary for. Their questions aren't curiosity. They're pleas. Show us how to become what we're too afraid to reveal in ourselves. Give us the shortcut to a self we've spent our whole lives avoiding. Teach us how to burn without losing the things we cling to for safety. But fire doesn't negotiate, and neither do you. They want you to explain what cannot be taught, package what cannot be reduced, and simplify what was never meant to be understood by those who refuse to face themselves. You didn't become this. This is who you were when the universe first breathed you into existence. You simply stopped hiding, and that's what terrifies them most. Number 11. You see the truth before they even decide to lie. They call it guessing. You call it what it is, seeing the punch before the fist is even clenched. Let's drag this into the light. You don't figure things out, you know, instantly, automatically, instinctively. You walk into situations with downloads people couldn't gather with a full team, 3 hours, and a flow chart. While they're still collecting surface-level clues, you're already holding the entire blueprint. You feel the truth humming under their words. You taste the motive behind their smile like poison in the water. You sense the rupture in their energy before they even realize they're leaking. And you've been trying to explain this to people who barely trust their 5 senses, let alone the unnamed ones you've mastered. They're still squinting at the obvious while you're reading the unseen. They need evidence, proof, confirmation, reassurance. You need none of it. You've got an internal compass that points straight to the truth, even when every external signal is pointing the other way. They lie with their mouths. You hear with their energy, and energy never stutters. You feel intentions radiate off people like heat signatures. You sense shifts before the room notices anything is wrong. You detect fractures in someone's story before they even finish the sentence. You're reading the code under the conversation, the emotional math happening beneath the script. That's why you know what someone will do long before they decide to do it. You're miles ahead in a game they don't even realize they're playing. Try explaining that to someone who thinks intuition is just a guess. Try explaining instincts to someone who needs reality to hit them with a brick before they believe it exists. You can't. They're operating on manual mode while you're running an upgraded system. You don't know how you know, you just do, and that's exactly why they can't keep up. Number 12. Your silence is the weapon they can't disarm. They weren't scared when you spoke, they got scared when you stopped. There's a kind of silence that isn't empty, it's loaded, sharp, dangerous, and that's the silence you've stepped into, not the silence of giving up, the silence of finally realizing you don't owe anyone a play-by-play of your evolution. You stopped narrating your every move. You stopped presenting your reasons like evidence in a courtroom. You stopped giving people previews they never deserved. And the moment you went quiet, their fear got loud. Because silence is power, not the passive kind, the sovereign kind. When you stop explaining, your mind clears, decisions sharpen. You no longer hold committee meetings in your head for choices you already know are right. You don't ask for permission from people who aren't qualified to understand your direction. You act, you move, you shift, and you do it without a single announcement. That's mastery, that's dominance, that's what shakes them. Noise is predictable, silence is lethal. Your silence can't be debated, they can't pick it apart. They can't twist it into something small. They can't find loopholes or launch attacks on words you never said. Silence leaves them alone with their own insecurities. And that's their worst nightmare. When you move in silence, you become unpredictable. They can't study your patterns because you no longer hand them the blueprint. They can't control you because you stopped giving them access to your internal world. They can't contain you because you're no longer playing inside the box they built to feel safe. This is what they feared from the beginning. The moment you would stop justifying yourself. The moment you would stop translating. The moment you would disappear into a level of self-trust that makes you untouchable. Your silence isn't absence, it's ascension, and they feel it like a threat. Number 13. Explanation is the cage they hope you never notice. They can't control what they can't predict, and your silence is the first door they lose the keys to. Here's the part that slices straight through their ego. The only reason they ever wanted your explanations was so they could track you, shadow you, imitate you, or brace for the impact of your next move. They needed the play-by-play, because without it, they're blind. They can't compete with someone they can't read. They can't copy someone who stopped narrating. They can't prepare for someone whose next step is invisible until it hits. Your explanations weren't communication. They were surveillance access. You weren't sharing. You were exposing. And every time you justified yourself, you were tightening the bars around your own potential. Explanation is a trick disguised as connection. It's a cage disguised as clarity. When you explain, you're shrinking the vastness of your instinct into sentences small enough for others to swallow. You're trading your unpredictability for their comfort. You're handing them a key and saying, "Here, monitor me, keep me manageable." Justification doesn't make you understood, it makes you hunted. The powerful throughout history understood one truth: silent moves are undefeated. Quiet strategy is lethal. The moment you stop broadcasting your direction, the battlefield becomes yours. Enemies swing blindly, competitors stall, copycats freeze. People who relied on your openness suddenly have nothing to grip. You walking without explanation is the one thing they feared, because now your life no longer runs on their timeline. Your growth no longer fits their projections. Your choices no longer orbit their insecurity. Explanation is the cage. Silence is the jailbreak. And now that you've stepped out, they can only watch the shadow of your movement and guess which empire you're building next. And that guess, it terrifies them. Number 14. The right ones don't need translation. They recognize your frequency. The real ones don't ask who you are. They feel it in their bones. This was never about hiding, never about playing mysterious, never about secrecy. This is about finally realizing that your energy speaks louder, clearer, and truer than any explanation you could ever give. The people meant for you won't need a map, a manual, or a monologue. They'll understand you through resonance, not reasoning. They'll meet you at your wavelength without asking you to dim it. You've spent years building bridges for people who admired the view but never intended to walk across. People who loved the access but not the responsibility. People who enjoyed your depth but feared the transformation it triggered in them. What you didn't realize was this: every bridge you built also gave enemies a path straight into your heart. Some distances aren't meant to be crossed. Some differences aren't errors. They're boundaries written into your nature. You're not hard to understand. You're sacred, and not everyone should enter sacred space. There's a beauty in finally being unapologetically different. It becomes a filter, a cleansing, a quiet sorting mechanism the universe built into your aura. The ones who can't handle your complexity remove themselves without you lifting a finger. The ones who were only there for convenience disappear the moment you stop translating. The ones who were intimidated by your truth drift into the background where they always belonged. And the ones who truly see you stay. Not because you explained every piece of yourself, but because your presence struck something ancient inside them. They recognize your truth without dissecting it. They read your silence without fearing it. They don't demand access. They earn it by showing they can hold it. Not everyone deserves entry into the architecture of your soul. Curiosity is not qualification. Interest is not permission. Fascination is not loyalty. Your difference doesn't isolate you. It protects you. It purifies your circle. It reveals who was meant to walk beside you and who was only meant to watch from the distance. The ones who matter will feel you. The rest will fall away like dust shaken from gold. And now, we close this chapter the way all revelations end, with you stepping fully into the power you spent years apologizing for. No more shrinking, no more explaining, no more offering your brilliance in bite-sized pieces for people who never deserved the full version. You walk forward now as the unfiltered force the universe intended. If this hit you where it needed to, like the video, subscribe, drop 77 in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to wake up to their own power. The rise is happening, and you're done dimming for anyone.